Good morning, everybody. My name is Jared O'Leary. I've been drumming since 1998. I still got a lot of stuff to work on. Guess what time it is? It's time to eat dino nuggets. Am I correct? Good morning, Tyler. All right, so I march snare, that drum. But I want to work on tenors. So we're going to try and get better with that today. Just a little bit. We're going to work on our scrapes or our sweeps, which is to go and you do like diddles from one drum to the next. It could also be threes, other things, but I'm going to work on diddles today. Now, in these practice streams, I like to share what I'm practicing, and how I'm trying to get better. As somebody who's been drumming for almost 3 decades and who has taught every grade, kindergarten through doctoral student, so I got a lot of experience with performing and teaching, which is why people will sometimes ask me questions about how to perform or how to teach, etc. I will often edit those responses and put them into this drumming tips playlist. There's over 13 hours of free drumming tips in here to keep you informed or entertained. Now, the very first thing that I talk about is the title of the video. So like slicing on tenors, is that a bad thing? But when it says and other drumming tips, that means there are more topics inside of that video that are in the chapters or the timestamps in the description. So you might find something that is of more interest than the title. So just check that out if you want to, but you don't have to. Any of the videos that say members first, like this one, are all scheduled to release for free. There's 460-ish, I think, that are scheduled to release over the next year and a half or so. So it might take a long time for some of these videos to come out, but I promise they're all coming out for free. If you want that early access, it costs as low as 99 cents. That's the lowest I can make it on YouTube. There's a join button on my channel's home tab as well as under each one of the videos if you want early access. But again, I promise it's all coming out for free. Now, because I'm not good at tenors yet, I need some motivation here from the great sage, Shia LaBeouf. So Shia LaBeouf here is going to help me out to get ready to work on tenors. Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it. Make your dreams come true. Just do it. Some people dream success. Well, you're going to wake up and work hard at it. Nothing is impossible. You should get to the point where anyone else would quit. And you're not going to stop there. No, what are you waiting for? Do it. Just do it. Yes, you can. Just do it. Hurry. If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up. Yeah, thanks, Shia LaBeouf. I'm so motivated to work on tenors now. Now, I haven't ever really gone full Shia. Full Shia would involve even more arm motions, higher, as well as a couple points where he spits and then he wipes it off. I don't know if I'm ready to commit that much to the bit, but, I'm motivated now. All right, so today I'm going to warm up, then I'm going to stretch and massage, and then I'm going to work on my sweeps on the Tenor drums, and then I'm going to chop out. That's the goal for the day. Now, on my website, which is linked at the top of the screen, jaredoleary.com/drum, this is where you can find all of the thousands, plural, of exercises organized neater than I can on my home tab of YouTube. I'm doing my best on YouTube on the home tab, but this is just easier to adjust because, HTML. 62 chop exercises organized here. We've got over 1,000 grid variations, triplet, 16th note, and some wacky ones down here. We've got a bunch of limb independent stuff. I was working on that yesterday. Straight charts, swung charts. We've got a few 100 marching bass exercises, timing exercises, etc., some drumline cadences, and hundreds, almost 400, technique exercises here. So if you want to work on endurance and speed, cool. If you want to work on your rolls, cool. If you want to work on your rudiments, cool. And then a bunch of drumming tips, all the live streams, as well as the scripted lessons right there. You got pulled away because of a boring adult job. Peach yogurt time. Nice. I actually, oddly enough, dated a couple of women who were allergic to peach. And I was like, wait, you're allergic too? So was the last girlfriend I had. It was very random. It was on tour for one of them where she discovered she was allergic to peach because they had a peach combo lemonade drink. And she's like, I don't know why it feels like my throat's getting scratchy and closing up. And we're like, uh-oh, that's bad. But she discovered it. Correlation equals causation. I give people peach allergies. Ooh. Oh, no. Oh, no. Well, it's got to be true. Somebody on the internet said it. Stay away from me, people. All right, roll timing. So I'm going to use this as a warm-up. We're going to get the hands flowing. This is a great exercise. Fantastic exercise to just work on your rolls, working in inverted rolls. Try and make everything sound nice and even, specifically so you can get that second note in there and have it be just as confident as the first note. Now, I'm going to warm up with this, and then I'm going to play through a roll interpretation exercise using some tenor sweeps or scrapes, depending on how you want to call it. Tyler, do you call them scrapes or sweeps? You're actually a tenor drummer. I'm just a poser. I pretend to be one. I get paid to be one on TV. Scrapes? Okay. I bet you Bill Bachman doesn't call them scrapes because he doesn't even know what a rim is. He's never seen one or hit one in his life. You refer to them as double strokes for the second note happens to be on a different drum. It's true. That's a longer name, though. So, stop. There's a rudiment for people who aren't familiar with it. Cheesy poop, where you play like a 2, so 8th note, accented. Well, you play a triplet with the low note taps at the same time. So you might do like a cheesy poof into a flam accent. Came up with you add in a slurred diddle in there on the second 8th note. So you could like, ew, that was horrible. My hands and brain are still warming up. But I was teaching it to like some drummers, and I was like, oh, well, what should we call this rudiment? It doesn't have a name. And they were just like, I was like, sweet, calling it So the whole rest of the year, we call it ums. That's what you get for saying Sorry, you're saying that long name reminded me of that. Four-year-old diagnosed with autism. Give them an outlet to engage with. Yeah. Okay, so when it comes to that age group, and as somebody who, thank you for the sub on YouTube, appreciate it. As somebody who like also has the tism, for me, there's like that age group in general. What I recommend is focusing on just having fun. So like you're not gonna sit there and like break apart technique. You're just gonna like play things that are enjoyable. Ideally, playing along to songs that they know. So like, all right, we're going to play through like your favorite pop song on the top 50. Well, we're going to do this thing called a double stroke. So we're going to play just like quarter notes, 2 on each hand. And then we might go like twice as fast. And then, hey, let's go back to quarter notes. And you just keep like doing something like that while just like basically keeping time with it. And then you could eventually get to like more advanced stuff. Like, hey, let's do a paradiddle. Whoa! And like things like that. Just like having fun with just playing along to music that they already enjoy. Then you can start doing like repeat after me. So like turn on a metronome, set it to like quarter notes, and then you could play something like, and then obviously go slower for the younger age group, etc. And then just do back and forth, trading off like one measure at a time, so like 4 counts at a time. And then you can be like, all right, now it's your turn where you're going to be the person who plays something and I'm going to repeat after you. And so of course they're going to do like goofy stuff and like throw their sticks in the air and like play all kinds of stuff. And you just have fun with that. Do that as well. So that like trading fours basically is another great thing that you can do with that age group. For me, the thing that like I really kind of stemmed on or like fixated on was like the patterns of rudiments. So like a paradiddle or whatever. So I would practice doing that. So focusing on things like that can also help. Finding the patterns and things can help with. It's kind of like a form of like a productive rumination for me, where like if my brain is playing a rudiment and just like repeating that over and over, that's technically a form of mental practice and whatnot. But it is like a healthy way to fix my attention or focus my attention, I guess would be a better word. But yeah, just in general, just have fun with them. And it's going to be difficult for them at that age group to like want to practice. So giving them homework might not work. It 100% depends on the student, but usually at that age group, having taught privately at that group, but then also like publicly in like kindergarten classes and whatnot, like 5-year-olds and above, it's just like go in each time and just teach something new that like kind of like builds off slightly off of what they were doing previously, but don't expect them to like work on their homework basically or practice. But yeah, that's like just the general thing that I recommend for starting out. But then like once you get into it and you're like, oh, I'm stuck, like we've done the same thing, like come back and just like ask some more questions. But yeah, there's a lot of like cool things that you can do with it. Like the thing that I was just playing obviously was just like a double beat, but you could do like different rhythms like each day, like focus on, okay, now I'm going to show you like triplets, but you don't even have to like label it as a triplet. Like, I guess that's another thing that I could say is that there's a difference between a concept and a label. And often educators focus on the label itself without actually focusing on the application of the concept and the understanding of the concept. So they'll like start off a lesson in a way that's like equivalent to reading the entire manual for like a video game when you don't even like need to know like, well, I don't even have this superpower yet. Why do I need to know what the buttons are to press that? And I don't even know what context I would use that superpower, etc. So it's the same thing for like teaching, is just like introduce the idea and then get them doing the thing. And then after the fact, you can be like, oh, and by the way, that thing is called triplets when you play like 3 at a time, as opposed to like, I'm going to start off with the history of like traditional grip and why this is important for you to know and how you're supposed to have this at the right angle and how your elbow should be kicked out. Like little stuff like that. Like beginner drummers just don't care and frankly don't need to know. That's all just like fluff stuff that has no application into the actual playing. And it might be interesting to some students, but most people are there to just hit a drum, not to like learn about like the history of Civil War or to like learn about what things are called, the labels for it. They will develop that interest down the road if you just focus on just like playing fun things, in my opinion. But that's my rant on your question. But good question, by the way. I need water. I talked a lot. I'm going to play through this a couple more times. Go. a student. I'm gonna go ahead and stretch your massage out. I had a student who was 4 or 5 that I taught privately, because he like was really into drums from like a very young age, like 2 or something like that, and just constantly was practicing. Was in like his like church group, like would play as the drummer as like a 5-year-old, which was like super cool. And he was like at a point where his parents were like, could this be like a profession for him? Like, is he a drumming prodigy, etc.? So they're like, all right, let's get lessons. So they took lessons from me for a while, and we would do some of the stuff that I was talking about and like just have fun, like playing songs and whatnot on the drum kit or just like playing on a pad. But he eventually got to a point where he's just like, just wanted to play whatever he wanted to play and like didn't want to learn the stuff that his parents wanted him to learn with the like more advanced things to like get him to like an intermediate or advanced ability level. And so I had to have the conversation with the parents like, hey, you can keep paying me if you want. Like, I'm happy to teach him, but like it's going to be just like having fun drumming. It's not going to be like the advanced stuff that you're hoping for. What I'd recommend instead is like stop lessons, and then in a few years, like of him just like continuing to just have fun making music, then you can focus on refining and doing like the advanced rhythm studies or like learning technique, etc. We ended up doing that. So sometimes you just have to like graduate yourself from a student and just be like, hey, like you're, because like financially they were it was difficult for them to afford it. But like if money's no option and parents are okay with it, then cool, just keep doing it. But in that scenario, it's just like, I don't know if lessons are going to benefit him at this point. Like I could introduce him some new songs and new stuff, but like he just wants to jam out and play whatever he wants. So, got any advice for hands to do flam drags at a faster tempo? Keeping that diddle clean after the flam? I do, Thomas. There's on my YouTube and then on my website, since you're on vertical, it's the /drum. So I'll show you there. But if you go to jaredoleary.com/drum, scroll down. What I'd recommend is 2 things. If you're a more of an intermediate or advanced player, then flam drags as triplet grid or as 16th note grid are fantastic for working on any kind of like rudiment. Like you could do it with cheeses, flam 5s, whatever. Just go slow with it, like 40 beats a minute. But if you're newer to flam drags and want to work on them, then under the rudiment builders playlist, there is some flam drag builders inside of here that are fantastic for working on your flam drags. The one that I recommend starting with is this one. So this one, the flam drag builder, this is variation 1. On page 1, what you're doing is playing just the right hand of a flam drag. So when you play, that's the first line. It's just the right hand. What you're doing is layering in one left hand at a time. So grace note, and then right here you add in the accent, and then right here you add in the diddle, and then when you get to the second page, you're playing normal flam drags, the composite, and then you're slowly removing one right hand at a time. So you move this right hand, then you remove this right hand, and then you remove this right hand grace note, and then finally remove the right hand accent. And so it's just what the left hand does when doing a flam drag. So this exercise is a fantastic way to really hear what your hand is doing individually as a flam drag while playing with the play along to make sure that you can like actually line things up here. But what I recommend doing when you're practicing this is to go slow. So this starts at 40 beats a minute, and I'd actually recommend starting at 40 beats a minute. It is super important to practice stuff slow when doing this. But that's what I recommend for like working on flam drags. But if anyone else in the chats has some other suggestions, like feel free to point them in there. But there's like a lot more exercises and whatnot. Like this is variation 1 of flam drag builder. There's also variation 2 of flam drag builder. This one right here, which is like better prepares you for grid variations, and then same thing for variation 3. So all of this again is found. If you don't want to go to the link here on the vertical, you don't have to, but this is on my home tab of YouTube. Just scroll down to the technique section, and the exercise that I was just showing you, if you scroll down, is in the rudiment builders playlist. And at the moment, there are how many videos in here? 37 videos inside of here to work on like your paradiddles, your flam drags, or inverts, or whatever. Like there's a lot of good stuff in here. You have some students who really crush the diddle. Oh, so the next exercise that I'm actually going to play through is fantastic for working on that. So give me like 2 more minutes to finish the stretch and massage routine, and then I'll show you a great way to prevent the crushing of diddles. There's a few exercises actually that I'll do a brief tour of, so we'll go on a little walkthrough. Just join. Could you please tell me what kind of drums I have there? So these are D drums. They're my wife's kit, and then my kit over there is a Pearl. And they're like an acoustic hybrid, so it's using the E8010 by Yamaha. The Yamaha drum triggers with the E8010. The E8010 is a drum module. So the heads that I've got, I don't know if you can, no, you can't see it there, and I can't change the angle of that. They are the silent stroke heads by Remo, as well as the low volume cymbals. So they've got like holes in them. You might be able to see it. No, you can't see it. Tomorrow on the drum kit stream, you can see it, or if you watch yesterday's stream on YouTube. But they're like allow you to have that like electric sound, so you can like just turn the knob on the drum module and it can make it whatever sound you want. But they're way quieter, so they don't annoy like neighbors. So if you're in like an apartment, the volume is substantially lower than like a normal set of heads and cymbals, etc. Let's see. The only technique I ever talk about is anything you notice would actually make playing easier. Yeah, so like technique stuff, it's fun to like teach that. Like I personally nerd out on like the little things, which is why like in these practice streams, like let's just play rolls for an hour straight or whatever. But yeah, like finding a fun way to introduce it, or like oh, you like playing fast, do you? Or you like playing really loud, do you? Well, here's a way that you can play loud if you do this, and then they'll be like, oh, I can play loud, and it's like, and it'll also prevent, carpal tunnel and tendonitis, etc. But you just kind of ignore that when you're teaching a kid at that age group. Even honestly, like middle school kids, like some of them just don't care. And I think if you like force younger students to like focus on the details when they're not yet ready for that, then it can create some issues where they will want to quit and they won't want to practice. And so you have to find ways to motivate more. So when I'm like teaching, because I've taught every grade, kindergarten through doctoral student, like the way that I approach each one of the like groups of like age groups and whatnot is very different. So like when it's like the younger age groups, like primary, so like kinder through second, maybe even like up through 4th grade and whatnot, it's just like, let's just have fun and like explore this like subject area, whether it was music or computer science or whatever. And then when it came to like late elementary and even middle school, it was more like, okay, let's like actually start to learn more about this thing and like let's get into a little bit of the details. But in high school and above, you can really start to get into some of the details for some students that want to. But there's still like in high school, the kids who are like there to just have fun and like just to socialize with their peers, and they have no plan on like engaging in music outside of that high school experience. So even approaching that is different than like when I'm teaching like an undergrad where they are paying to get a degree in music or music education or whatever, versus like a graduate student who's, some of them were like older than me. Like some of the doc student that I worked with supervised was a few years older than me. So like at that point, it's like, okay, you're paying a lot of money to be here. You clearly invested in this, so we can really get into the details and whatnot, whether it's like talking about research or technique, etc. Like the higher up you go, the more you can focus on that stuff. But when it's like the younger groups, you really have to focus on the motivation, and then like also balance out the time improving and then the time like socializing for kids. Like you can't just like completely, oh, hey, isolate yourself into a practice room and go practice for like 8 hours a day. That might not be why they're there. Like they might be there to, just have fun with their friends. But anyways, I ranted. So let me show you the things I was talking about to work on the crushing of the diddles. So what was it, like 4 days ago? I was talking about warmed up with an exercise in here that can help you out with this. So this is in the technique section. I'm going to show you 3 different exercises. Actually, I'll show you 4 that are great for working on this. So when students are playing through the diddles, they often don't know, like, well, what does a slurred diddle, what does a rush diddle, and what does like a perfectly rhythmic diddle sound like. So when they're playing, they might play like, and not realize that that was a slurred out diddle on the right hand. Or they might have like that kind of interpretation of the left hand diddle, where it's like coming in late and it's crushed, as opposed to like where it's like rhythmically exactly what you want. So I've got some exercises that can help with that. So one is diddle timing variations. When you go inside of here, there's several variations in here. I'll just show you this very first one. So diddle timing, when you click on this, what it does is it plays diddle on 1, diddle on 2, diddle on 3, but it slurs it out, plays normal interpretation, and then intentionally rushes the interpretation, and then plays a normal interpretation. So, for example, if you're playing like a diddle on 2, since you're asking about flam drags, so diddle on 2 right here, when you're playing check pattern, there's your slur diddle, normal diddle, and then the rush diddle going into the normal diddle. So this forces them to be intentional with what kind of interpretation they want. So if you can be intentionally out of time, then that makes it so that you know what it sounds like, and you can be intentional in time, so you can actually make some adjustments to fix it. So this exercise works on that. So when I practice this with like drum lines, because I taught this exercise to drum lines many years ago, would play it really slow. So we'd actually slow down a lot of what we're playing and go all the way down to 40 BPM. There's so much space in between each one of these notes. But because this is a play along, you can actually like hear it and practice with it. Then you'll be able to hear it when your interpretation is just slightly off, which is what I'll be doing with another exercise. So this works on just a single diddle with diddle on 1, 2, and 3, blah, 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 blah. Cool. That's great. Okay. But now if we go back to the technique section, there's also variations to work on with 5 strokes. So if we go into the 5-stroke roll timing variations, the exact same kind of idea with these exercises. Again, I'll just show you this very first one here. But this one takes the same thing, where it's a 5-stroke on 1, tap 5s, which is 5-stroke on 2, and outside 5s, which is basically a 5-stroke on 3. And you do slurred, normal, rushed, normal. So like the check. Oops. I just totally screwed that up. And then 5 strokes. And then rush. Going into the normal interpretation, etc. Okay, so cool. This is great and all. But another thing to focus on is usually for students that the issue is the second note of the diddle, whether it's like coming in late or coming in early. So the exercise that I just warmed up with, if you go into, again, the technique section, and scroll down to roll timing variations, this exercise is fantastic for working on the second note of a diddle. Now, the reason why is because it uses a normal roll. So you right, left, right, left. Cool. But then where it says inverted, you start with a single note, right, left, right, left, right. So you're doing a roll where the second note is actually now on the downbeat of the subdivision. So normally when you're playing a roll, you're going triple, let, triple, let. And so students will focus on that check pattern. So triple, let, triple, let, triple, let, triple, let. And they won't care about that second note because they're so focused on trying to keep the downbeat in time. But when you play a single note right here, this forces the second note of the diddle, triple, let, triple, let, triple, let, triple, let, etc. Okay, so by forcing the subdivision to be on the second note of the diddle, that will automatically make it so that most students will play that second note with more confidence, and it'll actually be more in time than when it's like in between the subdivision, if that makes sense. So this exercise, it's a 4-2-1 variation. We're just doing 4 counts of a normal roll, 4 counts of an inverted roll, and then 2 counts of a normal, 2 counts of inverted, 1 and 1 through this. Now this again is another exercise that I taught to the high school drum lines that I taught, and it worked really good for smoothing out those rolls, so that way you could have that second note like be actually placed in time. So I highly recommend this one. But in the same playlist right here, there's also some exercises that are coming out like a year from now, I think. So apologies, but I've got a few hundred videos that are scheduled to release. So this is currently members first, is 99 cents if you want it. But again, they're all coming out, so you don't have to pay for this. But the exercise that I'll be using while working on these tenor sweeps or scrapes is this one. So this is the same idea, but it applies it instead of doing like a single like diddle where you're doing like diddle on one or diddle on two or 5-stroke on one, etc. It's like just right hand diddles for the first 2 lines and then just left hand diddles for the next 2 lines. So it has check, slurred diddle, normal diddle, rush diddle, normal diddle. So same thing that we've been doing previously. And then it does the same thing for the left hand. So slurred, normal, rush, normal. And then the synthesis is just basically putting it all together to hear, okay. But like 4-count variation of that. So you can make sure that everything sounds nice and tasty. And again, when practicing this, I highly recommend going slow. So if you have students who are working on any of these kinds of exercises, they can use the play-alongs to practice listening in, so that way they can have perfect interpretation that they're listening to, as opposed to a metronome where it's like, well, I got the quarter note, and everything in between may or may not be in time, and I can't actually hear it. This makes it so you can actually hear whether or not it's in time. You think this is the most detailed YouTube channel, most content you've seen? Yeah. That's the goal. So I'm a bit OCD about, trying to create content. And I want it to be everything that I wish I had when I was like learning to play. But back when I like first started my website in 2003, it's like, okay, I just want to create content for my students. And then it like started to reach more people. And when I first saw like, oh, there's like all these people around the world who are like viewing my free exercises and whatnot, I was like, I had a panic attack because I was like, wait, I thought this is just for my students. Oh no. But I've slowly gotten used to the idea that a lot of people are using this content. Clipster, hello. Website existed in 2003. Yeah, my senior year of high school, I started teaching privately, and I created my website so I could just share the music that I was writing for my students, because they'd have like issues with like, hey, how do I work on my flams? I'm like, oh, I got an exercise for that. So I'd like write it out. At that time I was using Finale, and now I use Sibelius. So that's when I started teaching and when I made the website, which is why like when you go to the website, like it's got so much stuff in here, like the hundreds of presentations I've done. There's like 200 some odd podcast episodes. There's over a dozen publications, and then like all the computer science content, like it just for even like the Scratch videos and whatnot. Like there's a bunch of videos in here that like show you tutorials on how to do stuff in this programming environment called Scratch. Like it's because my website's been around forever. So the reason why I've got so much on here for like the drumming content is because I'm old. It's been around for a long time. But anyways, I'm rambling a bunch. I'm sorry. So sorry. I'm gonna do that. Teaching high school drumline and have new tenors, and you kind of hit a wall. Yeah. Tyler, who was on Instagram for a moment, but I don't know if Tyler's still on Instagram, but might be a good person to talk to, because Tyler's like actually a tenor drummer and I'm just a poser. So I'm learning tenors for fun. I taught tenors. I love tenors, but I march snare, so I can't really rightfully call myself a tenor drummer yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to work on sweeps or scrapes, and I'm going to isolate it out, so I'm going outside or down the drums, and then we'll go just inside or up the drums. We're going to do that for different types of drums and whatnot. So we're going to start with the right hand doing the sweeps. Again, slurred here. Yeah, that Tyler right there. Tyler knows what they're talking about. Now, Thomas, when teaching the tenor drummers and they're playing through the slow, make sure it has a rebound stroke so the sticks come back up, as opposed to playing like this, because then it's going to be staccato when they speed it up. The 5 latest triplet? Yeah. It's weird, right? But it's a great way to work on the interpretation of it without being too fast. Just a little bit faster. I'm trying to make sure it's efficient motion and I'm not going into the dead zones on the tenors while playing this. Then also, now I'm going to switch, so I'm going to the inside, starting on the outside drums. So, moving towards the center of my body, basically. So what I actually recommend for like tuning on a drum is find a lot clip of some sectionals, some subs, and use that as your tuning. So I really liked Vanguard's tuner tuning way back in the day. And so there's a sectional of them playing basic strokes back when Murray Gussick was teaching there. Oops. Sorry. And I used that on my iPod at the time and eventually my phone. And I would say listen to it and use that to like tune the tenor drums. But same thing for snares. So basically like the exercise that they play is like I can't play. So go through like all of the different drums and they just like play it for a bit and I'd be like, oh, so that's the pitch of it. So if you listen to like a recording of a lot clip of just a sectional of like snares playing or the tenors playing or even the basses playing, like I'd give my bass tech like, hey, make the basses sound like this. And so we listen to a lot clip of it. Then that way you can get a consistent pitch, a consistent sound that you're listening to based off of that recording. So again, find a sectional clip of whatever drum that you think sounds good and go with that. Any chance of becoming as good as I expect myself to be soon? Okay, so that's an interesting question on Twitch. So especially the second half of it. So I've actually talked about this in other videos. So on my YouTube channel, which on Twitch, I think the panel underneath, if you click like the drumming content, I think it takes you to here. So I'll show you on my website since Twitch is where you're on. So if I scroll down into this section here, under the drumming tips, there's a couple of videos where I talk about what it takes to actually be good. And for context, during the like start of my doctorate, one of the things that I focused on was skill acquisition and expertise research. So there's decades and decades of research on like what does it take to get good at chess or music or basketball, etc. And it was like popularized by Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers. So that whole like 10,000 hour rule, which is actually not a rule and which actually isn't 10,000 hours. It depends on the domain. So like wrestling, I think was like 8,000, but the music is like 20,000. What it comes down to is focused effort on the thing that you're doing. And one of the problems that you run into if you're doing two things is you're splitting your time versus somebody else who is only doing that one thing. So let's say you and somebody else have 5 hours a day where you're both able to dedicate time to improving whatever craft you're doing. So if you are improving in both like as a drummer and as a producer, let's say you're spending like 2.5 hours a day on each of those, whereas somebody's spending 5 hours a day on that. If it's everything is equivalent in terms of the quality of instruction, like the quality of feedback and the like quality of like energy and effort you put into your time, they will always outperform you on that thing. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. Like if you're okay moving your goal back and knowing that it might take longer than if you just focus on one thing, that's okay. And you can also shift. Like in my career, like all my degrees are in music education, like a bachelor's, master's, PhD in it. And then I taught computer science education. So I like stepped away technically from teaching music for a while. And then I came back to it. Like I kind of went in seasons of different careers with what I was doing. And so I would like really focus on like these different programming languages and like really dive deep into that. And my practicing suffered as a result of that. But then like I came back to practicing and I like wanted to learn drum kits. So I like started working on that. But that like impacted like my tenor playing. So I wasn't doing that as much. So you can do the different seasons. Like I want to focus on the drumming side of thing now, and the music production is going to go down a little bit in terms of how much time I'm putting into it. And then vice versa, you can like shift it back and forth. That's okay. But there's a video. Where is it? Sorry, there's like 100 videos in here. So this one, I think. Let me mute it. Yeah, so I think it's this one. So why you'll never feel successful as a musician. So this talks about some of the costs that come with how fast you want to get good at something. So like, especially at the very end, I talk about like how I wanted to get so good at like performing or teaching or whatever that it had some very drastic costs in my life in terms of like making so I had less time to spend with significant others or with friends. And so this video has like several different topics that I talk about that are kind of related to what you're asking about. You can get as good as you want, but there are going to be costs with that. And that's in either direction. And a phrase that I heard that I like is that you have to choose your regrets. So do you want to choose the regret of not being as good at a thing as you want by not spending as much time on it? Or do you want to choose the regret of not spending as much time with like people you might love or care about, etc.? And there's no right or wrong answer. It's just I would highly recommend before you start investing time in like want to become the best at something or improve at something, that you understand what those costs are and like actually play it out mentally and look at it, because there are costs that come with, okay, I want to actually really get good at something. I'm rambling a lot, sorry. But that's drumming tips number 85. And so again, you can find that in the drumming tips playlist, either on my home tab or at the tips and lessons section at the bottom on the website, since you're on Twitch. Which number video is that? Good question, Roy. 85. But yeah, I think I talk about it towards the end, but one of the things is like, one of the costs is I in high school was suicidal and like had very bad depression for high school and my undergrad. And the escape for me was practicing drums. And so there were some people who were like, well, how did you get so good so fast? And it's like, because I gave up everything for it. It was the only thing that kept me going. And so like other people who had more balance and who didn't have the depression, like they were hanging out with friends and they were like, doing things that was not practicing, and they quite frankly had a better balance in their life than I did, but it allowed me to reach my goals faster. Would I do it the same way now? I don't know, but it's important to think through those costs. So anyways, I'm rambling. Where are we at? This one. There. Yeah. Okay, so yes, I'm trying to remember where we're at. I'm talking a lot today. All right, so now we're moving to the outside, but with the interior drum. So now I'm going to go boo-doop. So that 2-1 with the right hand diddles, and for the left hand diddles, we're going to go 1-2. So we're going to... Okay, that's the plan. Whoops, wrong pedal. And by the way, you'll notice that the right hand, regardless of like what you're playing, it still starts at the same point in time. So it's just the diddle that's changing the interp, and like when the left hand comes in. It's the left hand, the diddle that's changing. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the inside. So drum 1 to 2 for the right hand, drum 2 to 1 for the left hand. Okay, so now I'm going to do down, up, outside, inside with each one of these interpretations. So I'll do like 1 count of each while playing through this. That's the goal at least. 3, 4, 8, and... Okay, so now I'll do that with the left, the same idea. The left hand will be changing drums. Now with both hands combined, we'll be switching the drums. Woo! Now when doing this, I want to make sure that I'm not having like a break in the wrist, and I'm not like changing the angle that I'm approaching each one of these diddles. So I don't want to like do-do, 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 do-do. I don't want to do a Julie Spencer approach like this. It's a legit technique. You can do that. Learned it on mallets actually, but don't do it here. So you want that consistency in the sound. So the same approach vertical, and you're just basically pivoting to be able to get that motion in there in between each one of the diddles. So when playing it, I want my drums to be close to each other where I'm getting that nice resonant tone without hitting the dead spot in the center of the drums while doing this without a wrist break. Okay, we're not doing this. Don't do that. Hitting all the variations. Yeah. All 7 billion of them. Next up, we're going to do Cadets 2000 behind the back variation. In 2003 in Academy, that was actually our drum break. We like literally ripped off the Cadets' entire break. Okay, so now I'm going to go down the drums again, just focusing on the right hand at the moment. From drum 1 to 3. Now with a 2 and 4 on the left. Thoughts on adding sensors to the middle of the drums that shock you every time you hit them? Why do you assume that's negative reinforcement? Huh? What if I like it? Did you think of that? Now I'm gonna go up the drums. Same drums, just going a different direction. I'm in a goofy mindset. Jeffrey, good morning. Welcome back. So the left hand feels better than it did, what was that, 4 days ago? So, yay! We're getting more consistency there. Now we're going to do the inside drums. So moving toward the outside to my right for the right hand. So 2 to 1. How can you improve your riddle sound quality? Watch the Batman movie with the Riddler, but watch it at like quarter speed and practice shadowing. So repeat after the Riddler. And then think like, what could I change as like a theme and variation? So like, okay, how can I do the same kind of riddle, but with something different than what the Riddler said? But again, do it really slow. Talking is screwing me up. Abigail, thank you for the sub. You're welcome. I'm here to help. All right, so now we're going towards the inside. Wasn't that Jim Carrey? That was the Riddler. I remember watching that movie as a kid and thought it was weird. Maybe it's good. I don't know. Started playing the wrong pattern. Yeah, so to improve the taste of Swiss cheeses, there's some Swiss cheese exercises that you can play. Try some cheese grid variations. And just like put the play along next to the cheese, and they'll sound way better. And they'll taste better. Also the Swiss drags. They're like cousins of the Swiss cheeses. So you could show them, but go slow. And then it'll show them their ultimate form if you go fast with the play along. Somebody who's just like walking in on the stream, no context for that, is like, what are you talking about? Don't worry about it. So yeah, if you want to improve the not only the taste but also the sound quality of your Swiss cheeses, like the food, then underneath my home tab on YouTube, if you just play one of these like play-alongs, like the grid variations, it'll help them. It'll taste great. It really brings out the umami and the flavoring if you do cheeses and then the Swiss cheese variations. Anyways, goofiness aside, let's chop out real quick. Me going to the Swiss drag show with drumsticks and getting thoroughly disappointed. Or pleasantly surprised, eh? Anyways, okay, so let's warm up. No, not warm up. Come on, brain. You can do it. I believe in you. Let's chop out. Well, let's see. Do I want to do... Let's do it. Let's actually, since we were talking about Swiss drags, let's go into the grid variation. And let's do Swiss drags. So if you scroll down, it's right... Where's it at? Here. Boop. So I recommend when working on grids, just do rudiment on 1. So I'm just going to do Swiss drag on 1. Yeah, my brain, Tyler, is not awake. Today's not a coffee day. I try and do every other day. And my brain is like, you want coffee, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, but no. Don't make me give in. Okay, so Swiss drags. Wish me luck. May have noticed a change in the sound quality there. Stop. And the reason why is because this is where my stick ended up. It was slowly just sliding out. It's changing the sound quality of the stick. Don't do that. All right, let's go faster. We're trying to make my right hand explode by playing faster than anyone's played a Swiss drag before. Do I have recommendations for tips for a good hack session to get access to online servers you're not meant to have? Yeah, use a VPN for a neighbor you don't like and have it like trace back to their IP and then do whatever you want. Don't do that. That's illegal. That'd be bad. I don't know why that made me think of like the ancient Chinese proverb on if you want to get revenge on somebody, buy each of his children a drum. I love you. And that just makes me laugh. It's funny because it's true. I will destroy you with kindness and drums. Who did I march for in my day? What do you mean in my day? I'm still marching. I'm clearly a youngin', right? I'm 18 years old. Just kidding. I marched for the academy. So I did 5 summers with them. And then on summer 5, I got into a car accident, and I could not march summer 6 or 7. Wah, wah. But, you know, 5 is still a good amount. Okay. Let's do this. 150. Woo! 160, here we go. Your sticks feel like they're vibrating? It doesn't... But you say in a bad way. Because there's the good way of vibrating. I'll elaborate on that in a second. Can you elaborate, Roy, on what feels off about the vibration? I'm curious. Woo! My right hand is done. So switch rags are a fun way to work on that, but since you're asking about Academy, I'm pretty sure on my CV page I have a picture of me on Academy back in the day. Yeah, if we scroll down here. Yeah, so there's me when I was center for Academy, when I was march and snare and all that. Blue Devils, yeah, they're a great line. Good line. Actually, the guy right there, the end snare, this was 2004 Academy. He actually went on to become the center snare for Blue Devils. That guy right there, Roberto. But that's me with hair. I know it looks weird. But yeah. Aw, that's Minnie. That's our dog that died a couple months ago. She was like 17, so, you know, old age. But, anyways. Alright, so, let's see. Question. Any tricks on how to get through a shopping spree? You ran out of money. Yes, actually. Coupons. If you do extreme couponing, you can often get flam drags for free. Get a nice BOGO for that. And sometimes you can even get flam 5s. Ooh. You have to bring a lot of coupons for that, though. A baseball bat when you hit it wrong. Tiny electric shocks all the time. Interesting. Or at times. So, Roy, I don't know if you've seen... You're welcome, Tyler. But I have a video where I talk about stick hum, which if you scroll all the way down here, on here, it's a really old video that I did a couple years ago. You should hear this when you drum. So it actually talks about the vibration that you should hear when you're playing. So as like a summary of it. So when you play... Your stick, when it hits a surface, it makes that humming sound. Boo, 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 around there for that particular one. Each stick's going to be a little bit different. When you get that sound, that means there's enough space in your hand and at your fulcrum for your stick to actually vibrate. So you can actually feel that vibration and hear it when you're playing. And that's a good thing, actually. So this is according to Jeff Queen, who's a 4-time world champion snare drummer. So he won INE for DCI twice and then PASIC twice. So kind of knows what he's talking about. But I got a couple lessons from him, and he taught me about stick hum. And he talks about in his book... Ooh, what's the book name? I'm so sorry, Jeff. We go here. Scroll down. This one, The Next Level. Yeah. Rudimental Snare Drum Technique by Jeff Queen. So he talks about it in here. But... when you're playing, you should feel that little vibration, that little tickle, and hear it when you're doing like stick control. I want to hear and feel that vibration in there. If I'm not getting that, then what's actually happening is you're choking off the sound when you're playing. So if I am doing this, where I'm letting it vibrate, and then if I hold too tightly, squeeze too much at the fulcrum, or close off the space too much and with the palm and the sticks and whatnot, then you don't get that vibration. and you get a much quieter sound. So you can actually change the amount of contact you have on the stick when playing and make it so that you change the sound of the overall volume with your playing just by allowing more or less vibration. So more vibration, less vibration. So you can completely change the dynamics just by changing that contact in there. And you're going to feel a huge change in the amount of vibration going on the stick. So that kind of vibration is a good kind of vibration. However, there is a type of vibration that you can sometimes get when there is a micro crack in the sticks. So sometimes when you have a new stick and you're playing through it and it has this like extra wonky feel to it, there might be a stress fracture basically somewhere along the stick that is causing it to do that. Those sticks usually break very quickly. Like I had a pair of sticks like when I was the Center for Academy one year where we were playing with a brand that was not that so great at the time, but they sponsored us, so we were using them. And I spent like the whole time just taping the whole break, taping new fresh pair of sticks. And while I was literally like tapping off for us to play like 8/8/16, I was like, and then my stick just broke with the taping on it, like just in a tap off. So sometimes you get just like bad sticks where it's going to have that stress fracture in there, and just any kind of playing might break it within like a very short period of time. So that could be the vibration. So there's the good kind and then there's the bad kind, which is like, okay, well, which one is it? And I don't really know. If I could like look at technique like in person and listen to it, then I could like, oh, well, it might be this, it might be that. But yeah, not all vibration is a bad kind of vibration, but there certainly are some that are not good. Any tips for making the Blue Devils? It's been your dream to win March Madness. You know what, Tyler? I appreciate you thinking up different puns and stuff. I'm glad the Riddler suggestion for that movie is helping you. It shows that you've been putting in that time and effort to come up with more jokes. What do I think are the worst sticks? The band director's Gawk Block sticks, or the high school student's favorite pair he's had for 5 years? We had, whenever we would like break a pair of sticks when I was in high school, we would throw it on the roof above the band room. So I just imagine that like one day a maintenance worker went up there to like fix an AC, like after a decade of it working just great, and then they went up there and like, why are there like all these drumsticks up here? Anyways, okay, this by the way is /gear, so if you like, I think it's the second link under each one of the play alongs. This shows you some books and gear and sticks and whatnot that I recommend. But yeah, so Roy, to kind of like jump back onto it, so your sticks, like it could be a bad pair of sticks, it could also just be like a different type of material that's used for it. So like some of the wood sticks feel different depending on what kind of wood they use, but also if you're using like I've played with some metal sticks before. Those are a little bit weird because they're like hollow on the inside. That felt weird to play with, but there's like a variety of different materials that can be used, so all that could be related to it as well. Not to rule that out. So anyways, so if you want to go and find all of the play-alongs that I was using, I know I talked a lot today, but there's literally thousands of them here on my home tab. If you just scroll down, there's all the chop stuff, there's all the grid variations, you have to click to expand, there's the limb independence, the marching bass, the scores, the technique, and then over 13 hours of drumming tips and whatnot in there, so you can check that out. You had some buzzy sticks before and they didn't last long after that? Yeah, so Tyler has had that experience before. They're weird, but yeah. If you get the same type of stick and get two different pairs and you're like, this one feels different than the other, then yeah, there's probably a stress fracture somewhere in there. If you do like a rim shot, it might explode. So, you know, wear a vest for protection. Anyways, I'm going to call it here. Thank you all, everybody. Great questions, but I'll be back on tomorrow, and I'm going to get ready for Alien Isolation. But goodbye.